This video is sponsored by Ultimate Guard. Pick up Ultimate Guard products at your local game store or order them on Amazon. Link down below. Welcome once again to Commander by Danon. Today's video came about due to a variety of comments I've gotten on videos before. I wanted to talk about card advantage in Commander and the variety of forms it comes in. Also, and I know it's annoying to keep hearing this, but statistically if I don't ask you to like and subscribe, the video gets fewer subscribers. There are several pieces that are in most Commander decks. You don't need to follow a checklist to the letter, but it does help. Your deck will be more consistent. It doesn't mean your deck will play the exact same way every single time. That's boring. If you want a consistent deck that plays the exact same way every single time with little variation, why are you playing Commander? That being said, the worst thing that can happen to you in a Commander pod isn't losing. Based on simple math, if you lose 75% of the time, your deck is average. That's assuming a pod of 4 players, of course. But you do want your deck to function. And in order to build a functional Commander deck, you need lots of different pieces, which is why I try to rely on my handy-dandy checklist. 50 mana sources, usually split between 37 lanes and 13 pieces of ramp, 10 pieces of card advantage, 8 to 10 pieces of spot removal, 2 to 3 board wipes, 2 pieces of graveyard hate, and 1 sudden I win card. One more quick note before we get started. If you're looking for a unique gift for that special someone this holiday season, you should check out these lovely 3D printed deck boxes over on Etsy. The creator is wonderful to work with and ships the deck boxes quickly, so please go check him out. After the video, of course. When most Magic players hear the words card advantage, they usually think card draw. Okay, so I'm going to go to Scryfall, hit advanced search, type draw in the text box, put in my commander's color identity, hit search, then sort by EDH rank, and that's all I need to do, right? If you want, sure. It's your deck, do what you want. But then you miss out on all the other forms of card advantage out there. Now, when I say card draw, I do not mean cantrips. I mean drawing multiple cards. At a minimum 2, preferably 3 or more. I also mean consistent card draw. Sure, Greed only draws us 1 card each time we activate it, but we can activate it as many times as we want. Phyrexian Arena, Colossal Majesty, and the Immortal Sun give us consistent extra cards every turn. Planeswalkers with a plus ability that allow us to draw cards are also great. Sure, they only draw us 1 card at a time, but they're consistent. Wheels are also another great way to refill our hand. Sure, they can help our opponents out, but they can also hurt our opponents. Have you ever had someone tutor for a card and then force them to discard it via a wheel? The look of despair on their face is priceless. Wheels usually have one of 2 effects: discard and draw, or shuffle and draw. Usually the shuffling involves both the hands and the graveyards of all players being shuffled into their library, and then a new hand is drawn. These types of wheels double as graveyard hate. Sure, we're not exiling our opponent's graveyards, but they're no longer free to cast spells from them either, so it works. I feel I should go back to cantrips for a bit, just to explain my position on them once again. Cantrips do not belong in most Commander decks. Opt, Brainstorm, Ponder, these are all fine Magic cards in the right circumstances, but do not belong in most decks. You want your cantrips to do more than just replace themselves. You want them pulling double duty. For example, a deck led by Talrand Sky Summoner loves cantrips. Because not only do they help us dig through our deck, they trigger our commander, creating Drake tokens. But the Locust God could care less about cantrips. We create tokens based off of the number of cards we draw. So while Brainstorm is great because it makes 3 insect tokens, Opt only makes 1. To reiterate, if you want all 10 of your card advantage cards to just be card draw, that is perfectly valid, but it's not your only option. Filtering comes in many forms. Of course, you've got Scrying and Surveilling, both of which are great, but you also have cards like Faithless Looting and Frantic Search, Thrill of Possibility, and Unexpected Windfall. Even Abundance is a form of filtering, but it doesn't fill up your graveyard like Faithless Looting does. Filtering is a great way to get rid of cards you don't need at the moment, or put cards into your graveyard to be reanimated at a later time. But it is not for every deck. Just ask yourself this: do I need to have a full graveyard? Does my deck perform better if I have cards in my graveyard? If the answer is yes, you'll want your fair share of card filtering. Exiling cards from the top of your library, or your opponent's library, so that you can play them later on is a great option, but not one you want in every deck. If a good chunk of your interaction comes in the form of counter magic, you'll want to avoid running cards like this, but generally, these are fine options for you to run. Tutors, whether limited or general, are powerful cards that allow you to find answers to win the game, or prevent someone else from winning. They are not necessary for all decks, but they do make decks more consistent and more powerful. If you have a strong deck that you're wanting to make more casual, consider cutting your tutors. Tutors can look for cards and then put them into your hand, on top of your library, or into your graveyard. Now, if you're a Spellslinger deck that's copying spells all the time, ask yourself, why would you ever run Mystical Tutor? Solve the Equation has a higher mana value and can only be cast at sorcery speed, but it puts the card into your hand. Or, in this example, both cards. Let me state though that you don't want all of your card advantage to be tutors. Unless you're in CEDH, 2 or 3 tutors is the most you'll want to run, and even 3 is excessive in most decks. Any more than that, and maybe it's time to rethink your 6-card win condition. Either that or figure out how to draw your entire deck. Yes, reanimation is a form of card advantage. Maybe we filtered away the card via Faithless Looting or one of the Surveil lands. Maybe we tutored it directly into our graveyard. Or maybe we're recasting an instant or sorcery from our graveyard. Maybe we're using Archaeomancer to bring a spell back that we can cast again. Commander has a limit of 100 cards, so having the ability to recast cards is an advantage. Now, just like tutors, you don't want your entire card advantage package to be reanimation. Think about your deck and what you're trying to do. Some decks, like Laissa Forgotten Archangel, your commander brings all of your creatures back. But having a couple of backup options is nice. Do you wind up with lots of lands in your graveyard for whatever reason? Sun Titan is a great option. Cascade is a form of card advantage, but there are plenty of other effects that allow you to cast spells off the top of your library without having to pay for them. An argument could be made that this counts as mana ramp rather than card advantage, but I say you want synergy in your commander deck, so why not both? I've seen Sunbird's Invocation pop out extra dragons in Cutestuff's Lathless deck, and my stepdaughter's First Sliver deck can rebuild a board of slivers at an absurd pace. But like many others on this list, you don't want to run only cascade effects for card advantage. Now we're getting into a bit of a meta discussion. Card advantage doesn't mean you draw more cards than your opponents, it means having access to more cards. So technically, forcing your opponents to discard is a form of card advantage. Take Siphon Mind for example. In a 4-player pod, this card nets you a 6-card advantage. Each of your opponent loses a card, which is a bonus for us, and we get to draw 3 cards. Now, while forcing our opponents to discard doesn't help us win the game by itself, it does put us ahead and can lead to victory. Something to keep in mind when building your commander decks. Okay, I think that brings us to the end. Sorry we didn't have a deck list for today's video, I just wanted to talk about the various options people have when it comes to card advantage. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. You can have a video made or just ask for help building or tuning a deck list. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Danny, Muffins, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Alix, Borgie, Nazwin, Konga, Aaron, Chris, Robert, Austin, William Pye, Kazaris, Booksu, Patrick, Travis, Naffy, Noodle, Tiz, and Art. You guys are awesome. I post new Commander Deck videos every weekday, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Commander by Danon.